every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked.
A quick introduction for describing my side. My face is forgettable, a regular guy. Now I can be anyone, anywhere I aim. I just need the mindset, a story and a name. Just started working here, haven't got my badge yet. My hard hat and clipboard's the same as all access. Data center rooftop, finished with my case soon. Taking people's lunches from the bags up in the break room. Talking through my story, recited it with confidence. Make you feel at ease, disregard your common sense. Now I'm in, hope you're ready for the consequence. Cause I'm picking locks, slipping off with all your documents. Play the subconsciousness, never regress. Got the technique set, cashing every e-check. Set them up, knock them down, premise with my pretext. Better stay alert.
Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 23.
Number 23.
Wow, that was a new one.
I know.
That was actually timely. He did it on time.
Yeah.
It was like he was anticipating it. It looks like Relic might be having a comeback. You know,
Yeah,
he's actually caring about the podcast.
Yeah, the last few, he was like 5 minutes later, he's like, oh yeah, number 21, number 19. What number are we on now? Which podcast?
Let's not get into the passport story, bro.
Which podcast am I on? Which podcast am I on again?
I think he actually rehearsed this at home.
Yeah, I think he did. That sounded really good, Dave.
I actually sit in front of the mirror naked and do it, so it helps me concentrate. Yeah.
We just lost like 20,000 listeners.
Well, we needed 20,000 listeners in the first place to have that.
We do.
Oh.
Nice, real nice, Dave. You know.
Well, so I don't understand. Me naked is going to turn away 20,000 listeners. I mean,
easy.
Some people might think I'm somewhat attractive.
Well, all of our listeners at the Helen Keller School for the Blind, they like it, but but the rest of the listeners, they don't like it. Okay, they don't like it at all. Okay.
All right. Well, then I'll save the pics that I took when I was doing the rehearsal.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. We just lost our PG rating for the podcast too. Thanks a lot.
No problem. I just sent it to you, so just click that link.
Yeah, I'm clicking the link, right. So, besides all that, we know we have Dave here, obviously. We can't ever get rid of him.
Hello.
We have Mutz with us, too. What's up, Mutz?
All good.
Jim, how you doing today?
Very fine.
Jim is sitting on a noisy chair, so if you hear interesting noise, like that, it is not something foul. It is just Jim moving extensively on his chair. Let's see what we got going on this month. We have a couple big things that occurred, of course, last month. I mean, our biggest is the release of Backtrack 5. We released that and had a really great podcast, very popular with Infected Mushroom on it. And that's been going real well, too. Our Backtrack Infected page, where we have all the MP3s and the wallpapers for download. A lot of people are taking advantage of that. Had quite a few tweets sent my way. I'm sure you saw them too much. People saying like they never heard of Infected and now they're in love with the band. So
yeah, that's such great news.
Great news. So we're really happy to see that, and a lot of people are signing up to get more info on Infected in their newsletter, and hopefully be seeing them in shows as they're traveling and touring the U.S. soon too.
Those guys are awesome.
They really are. They really are awesome. I can't wait to see them again when they come through the U.S. tour, which is going to be coming soon. I heard this year they're going to be doing a massive tour. Of course, though, their U.S. tour is like U.S. one day, then Japan the next day, then U.S. again, and then like Turkey or something. So it's crazy travel schedules. But in addition to that, we have some other Backtrack news. You just opened up a Redmine server for handling the bug tracking, Mutz?
Correct.
You want to tell us a little bit about that? What's going on with that?
Well, it's the first public debut of a bug tracker which is open to everyone. That's something we've avoided doing until today, and I'm actually pretty hopeful about this because this gives us a much larger testers base that can actually come and tell us about bugs and hopefully even bug fixes. And just today, we identified a couple of bugs which were fixed immediately. So it's also a good way for the community to speak to the devs and the devs to speak back, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And it's pretty easy to remember. It's just redmine.backtrack-linux.org.
Yep. Port 8080.
Yeah, port 8080. Right.
/_passport.php.
Great. Now when people start going to that, then what? Right? Then what? Great. Anyhow, so that's really exciting news. We look forward to seeing how that works out. This is the first time we're ever using that with Backtrack, right? So this is brand new for us too. But obviously working quite well, as we just heard from the mutts. What else do we got going on? I hate to mention this right after Backtrack because it's just not really anything in comparison. But DerbyCon, let's talk about that.
So before we actually get into DerbyCon, I want to let the listeners know that normally my whole goal is to frustrate Chris and to make his life hard. But today's going to be an especially pleasing podcast for me because the whole podcast I'm planning on making Chris's life miserable. So
and that's different than other.
No, it's just I have more. I feel like I have more dedication today. Spiritually, I feel more aligned with being able to actually go after you.
By your introduction,
Yeah.
Your introduction was good.
There's a lot more passion today. I don't know what's going on, but for some reason I feel the Chris pranking. I had like 2 great ideas before the podcast to prank you, and so those are already kind of into effect right now. But we'll figure those out later.
Chris, I have to tell you something. Sorry, I'm cutting you off right there, Dave. But you notice how Dave's pranks have turned like from the most amazing thing that will ever happen to your life to like daily pranks he whips out of his backside.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they're losing their touch. They're losing he's just not being effective anymore. It's quite sad to see this, I must admit.
If you think about it, we really can't expect much more from Dave than what we got so far.
Yeah.
Well, I really have to say that hopefully I'll be changing that. I think the Shmoocon prank was a pretty good.
What? I tell you, if pure hate didn't screw you up on that.
Yeah.
If he didn't, and I'm not trying to blame the guy, but if he didn't screw you up on that, you really would have got me pretty darn good.
Yeah,
you really would have, because that video was epic, and you were holding a shirt that obviously looked exactly like it, and you handed if he did not show me the box when you handed me.
Oh my God, are you guys still talking about this thing that happened 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Oh.
This
is what he brings up, like 2 months old.
I know, but I wanted to give him creds. I wanted to give him credit that was actually a good prank.
It's not going to alleviate what I'm just going to be doing relentlessly through today, but I do appreciate it sincerely, Chris. Thank you very much. And Maddie, all I got to say is that DEF CON and Black Cat are just a couple months away, and so we have a lot of work to do. I have my team working diligently on coming up with the best Chris prank. So I'm actually dedicating the majority of our resources right now to that. So we should have something pretty good.
Do you realize I'm not speaking at DEF CON?
It doesn't matter. At this point, it's kind of evolved from you just speaking to just doing it whenever.
Oh.
So,
because I thought the whole deal was the first time I speak.
It's kind of evolved because I can't just wait for you to
crumble down.
Yeah, well, you see, the reason he can't do the first time I speak is because I already spoke publicly like 3 times, and he's failed each time to get me. So,
Yeah, so you're just digging yourself a bigger hole.
Just skip to the next topic and not, just leave this dead horse alone.
So how about DerbyCon?
DerbyCon.
How are the ticket sales going? Are they all gone, or you still have more left, or what's up?
They're not all gone. We have more left, and the ticket sales are going phenomenal. We have a lot of training courses that are very close to being sold out, and ticket sales. We generally, average, quite a few a day. So it's gonna sell out relatively quick. We still got about 4 months to the actual conference itself, but I'd like to say a special shout out. Oh man, crazy, huh? It's just one first year conference, can't complain. But we already have a number of awesome sponsors. We have Akivant as a sponsor, Rapid7. We also have Secure Ideas, which is Kevin Johnson's group, and so he's coming along, and he's actually speaking at DerbyCon as well. So we have a lot of great sponsors that are coming out of it. So we're really happy about it.
What about OffSec and SocialEngineer.org?
I wasn't really going to name you too. That's fine.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Oh, and hey, I do have to say once that three of my team members right now are going through the OSCP. So good stuff.
Are they suffering?
Oh, dude, you have no idea.
So, don't you have other great news about DerbyCon? Nothing? That's it? Yeah, I didn't think.
I think he died.
Well, I think that basically what he just said, which was nothing, amounts to the excitement that we'll all have when we're at DerbyCon.
No, I think what I'm gonna say, like, this is just me torturing you again, Chris, because you probably had that couple of seconds of like, oh, what's going on? So
you know what will happen is I'll actually edit all of that out, and then people will see you responding immediately to my questions. See, all that's edited out. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want, and basically what happens is I have you saying yes, sir, no, sir.
All right.
You know.
Let's get back on track here. No.
Well, talking about excellent training, we have, of course, our sponsor, or one of our sponsors on the podcast, OffSec. We got some training coming up. Besides our online training, which is always happening every week, we have a new round of courses available there. But we have our Black Hat courses, which are completely sold out. Last time we made a bunch of people feel bad, Mutz. On the podcast we said things like I forget how we worded it, but we said don't come crying to us because you didn't sign up early enough for our Black Hat classes, and people still came crying to us. I feel bad for them, but in the end, I don't know what to say. I mean, we got like 20 people on a waiting list for each class, so if you come and beg, there's nothing much we can do to help you get into the class. But we have other classes.
But we have this special email, bribes@offsec.com.
Yeah, that's great. I wouldn't be surprised if you actually got a couple emails to that email address after this podcast with some of the emails I've been getting begging. But you don't have to bribe Mutz, because you could save money and come to one of our other classes, like St. Kitts, PWB, and the West Indies, Caribbean. Going to be an awesome class. That one is filling up. We have some seats left.
Doesn't it have a special name, Chris?
Something about your inner pirate.
We had a few. We had Root Breaches at the Beaches.
Yes, that one was great.
And of course we had Discover Your Inner Pirate.
Yes. Two excellent names for that course. That will be a great one. Then, shortly before that, actually, we have our first live all-class outside of Black Hat. That will be in Maryland, Columbia, Maryland, USA. And that class is also filling up, but there are a few seats left there if anyone's interested. That you tried to get into all at Black Hat and it was full, let us know about that. We have the class there. We also have an all-class in Portugal. Later on in 11, I think actually going into 2012. That information's on the site. So we got a lot of training coming up in the next few months that you can feel free to email us at or check out the website for details, and we'll be happy to help you get up into one of those classes. Let's see, what else we got going? The CTF. A lot of great things happening with the CTF. Really, there is. There's some things I don't think I can mention just yet that will be announced shortly, but some new additions to the CTF. We still have our one premier target, which I don't want to say anything about them, but I'm telling you this much: when you see who they are at DEF CON, I think the world will be amazed at who signed up to be a premier target.
Are you saying it's going to break the internet in half?
It might break the internet. It might create a wormhole.
We still don't know.
I don't know exactly, but I definitely know one thing, that there will be a couple capillaries inside the brains of the heads of the FSISAC that will probably explode. That's all I'm allowed to say. That's all I'm allowed to say.
You're very reassuring, Chris. Very, very reassuring.
That's all I'm allowed to say. Okay?
Chris, I mean, we should just... Never mind, I'm not going to even go there. It's not even worth it.
Okay. Anyhow. So the packages for the contestants went out June 1st. So June 1st they got them. They're active.
How was the turnout?
Turnout was great. Actually, we had way more people sign up than we can take. We had to turn down quite a few.
Awesome.
Yeah, we had.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but awesome.
It is awesome because the worst thing to happen is you don't have enough. But we only wanted to take 15 contestants, especially with the premier target, because we got some other special things going on during the CTF. So we didn't want to take too many, and it was we had probably easily triple, quadruple that number. And then after we closed it, we had people emailing saying, "Hey, I wanted to get in and I didn't get in early enough. Can you do anything for me?" Same thing like the classes, but it just really went quick. I think it was like a week and a half, and we were over full already.
Did it go quick or really quick?
I think really quick would be more accurate.
Well, a week and a half, I would say, is pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say it's like
Quite a
really
few. Quite a few quick.
Quite a few quick.
It's not proper English.
Maybe it went more quickly.
More quickly than last year. That'd be good. That'd be good.
More quickly than last year. Yeah, definitely more quickly than last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what we might have to consider next year is, assuming there is a next year, and we don't all go to jail, but for next year,
Especially with that premier target.
Yeah, totally. What we might need to do is look at the possibility of doing a contest to be in the contest.
So now we're going to be like the CTP sign up. Like you have to hack this website just to register. So you have to SE a registration code out of like Mutz, Jim, or me in order to register for the CTF.
Something
Yeah.
we'll have to see, because there's enough people that are trying to sign up, and we have a limited number of seats, and DEF CON's only so long. We can't, and Sunday's just not a good day to do the contest, and so we have to make them fight each other, I guess.
I think it will become eventually, I hate to do the comparison, but like the offset courses. The first couple years we did them, people were taking their time to sign up and then begging, and now it's like those guys who want to get in, a week and a half, and the course was full at Black Hat. I think that's what's going to happen next year with the CTF. People who really are serious, they're going to get signed up the day we announce it. Because
faster than last time.
More faster than last time.
Okay.
Yeah, even more quickly. Yeah, I think so. But we're excited to see what happens with it. We got some really nice changes this year with the reporting. We have our, as we announced publicly already, we have like an index scoring that we're going to score each company and use that kind of to show where these certain industries as well as the companies sit in the field and regarding social engineering and how they can combat it. And some new flags. Some new companies, of course, on the list. A lot of new companies on the list. So really excited to see how this year turns out. A lot more organization behind the CTF. It was definitely organized last year, but we are structuring it so we have multiple different types of companies in the same sectors, so we can do comparisons and things like that. Really aligning it out, outlining it a lot better. So we're excited to see how this year comes out. Let's see, what else do we got going on with the CTF? I think that's about it. Mention a couple of our sponsors, because with the DEF CON CTF, we we definitely could not have pulled it off with the support of some of these companies. So the EFF, I'd like to just mention them first. They're not a monetary sponsor, but their legal help is invaluable. I think without those gals, I should say, because everyone we deal with is a gal over there, we would not be able to do what we do.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, they really are. From the contracts to the advice to keeping us in check so we don't step over that line, these guys just really, really are awesome.
They deserve hugs.
They do. And Dave, when we get there, you hug them.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem. I'm not gonna get sued for hugging.
Oh, you might. I'm gonna tell
They're
Marcia.
lawyers.
I'm gonna tell Marcia to start a sexual harassment suit right away.
It's not sexual harassment if you hug somebody.
It might be. She might
If it's
not want you to
uncomfortable,
hug her.
if it's one of those uncomfortable ones that I give to you all the time, then yes,
It's
maybe.
considered assault.
Yeah, I feel assaulted every time. I actually have to go to therapy every time I'm with you, even for like an hour. I go to
Well, now that I know that, I'm going to abuse it even more.
Yeah.
Instead of 10, 15 second ones, you're talking 10 to 15 minute hugs
Awesome.
now.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually, well, after the 10 or 15 seconds, I get comfortable, so it's okay.
Okay, good. I'll do some grappling or
Great.
grabbing.
Yeah. Learn how to speak.
Grappling's even more horrible than grabbing.
So anyhow, without the EFF, the CTF would not occur. So they're just great. You can check them out at EFF.org. In addition, of course, Offensive Security is been sponsoring us and helping us out with the CTF since the beginning. And again, this year, it wouldn't happen without their help. So we talk enough about them. I'm sure Mutz hates that, but we'll just say offensive-security.com to check out them there, that sponsor that helps us out. In addition, we have two other sponsors this year that were not with us last year. Core Securities. Core Securities is the guys who make.
I think it's Core Security.
Core Security. Though I always mess up.
Nice, Chris.
Okay.
They sponsor us and you butcher their name.
Okay, I'm going to start it over. Okay, cut. So another sponsor that joined us this year is Core Security.
Number 23.
Nice. Core Security, for the love of God. And they make Core Impact, of course. But what we know them the best for is their sushi party at Vegas. So if you want to... If you want to check them out, I was talking to the guys at Core just yesterday, and they said that people should start hitting them up to, schmooze tickets out of them. We should make that an event. Maybe that could be it, if you could schmooze tickets, personal tickets.
That's actually a pretty horrible idea, Chris.
Is it? Yeah, okay. I know. I'm really not doing good with ideas today.
You gotta cut that out. Just cut it out.
Yeah, okay.
It's a good idea, but I don't think Core would like it.
Well, maybe not the schmooze part, but Core did say that people should start signing up for the sushi party because they throw that every year, and I guess the last couple of years it's been over full, so they had to turn people away. So they're saying if you want to get in on that, you got to get in early.
Well, remember that one year a bum showed up.
Yeah, I do remember that. That guy, man, he ranked. I don't know how he got a ticket. That was crazy.
No idea.
Yeah, well, someone must have gave it to him, and then he just came in. And he was eating sushi like a guy had never eaten before.
He was hungry.
Yeah. So you might see all sorts of interesting characters at the sushi party for Core. Core Security, not securities, like I've been saying. And then our other sponsor for the CTF, which just joined us, is Qualys. Anyway, before I go to Qualys, I should mention, if you want to check out Core Security, it's coresecurity.com is their website. And on to Qualys. Qualys is another security vendor that's working with us this year and sponsoring the CTF. I'm going to hold off until the next podcast when we announce some other thing that they're sponsoring with us this year, a very special event, because we haven't announced that with DEF CON yet. But they're with us here on the CTF sponsorship, helping us out with everything that's going on with that. So we'll see those guys there too. You can check them out at Qualys, that's QUALYS.com, and check out their website there too. So we appreciate the help from all of our sponsors, of course.
Not to leave them out, but I think they throw a party at Black Hat every year too.
A Qualys party at Black Hat. Now they didn't tell me to promote people signing up for that, so you might have to do something special to get in there. Call them and mention Jim's name and see if they give you a ticket.
Hung up on.
Yeah, and get hung up on. Let's see. If you like the intro music, before we go into our guest, you can of course check out Dualcore at dualcoremusic.com. He wrote that song. Trust Me, just for us, for the podcast, and he has it up.
He was trying to serenade you with it, I think.
No, I think that's Dave's job. I don't think Dualcore was trying to serenade me with that, but nice try. And again, people keep asking. Tell them about our web developer, Tom. You can check him out at tiktokcomputers.com. He's the guy who does all our web development, most of our graphic design and everything that you see on the website. Our shirts, all of our logos, things like that, all of that comes from Tom, so you can check him out at tiktokcomputers.com. Okay, with that being said, guys, what the heck was that?
Dave's children.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. That was a very faint, scream for help.
Let me out! I'm locked in the room.
Yeah. Dave, wherever you have locked in the trunk by your desk, please let them out, okay? Swing. Yeah. Anyhow, our guest, as we get him on, his name is Dan Ariely, is the way you say his last name, I believe. And Dan's a very special guest for us. I'm going to leave the intro for when we get Dan on, and then I'll do the bio and the intro, and we'll talk a little about what brought us to Dan. But Dan does a lot of research as a doctor, as a scientist, into self-control and irrationality. So we want to have him on to talk about that. Which is why
it was important that we had Dave on with him.
Yes, I think having Dave with this guy is probably more epic than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyhow, we're going to take a little brief pause, and then we're going to get Dan on to the podcast. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have our guest with us today, is Dan Ariely. Dan is a professor at Duke University in the Department of Psychology and Behavioral Economics. He also is part of the Fuqua, I think I'm saying that right, School of Business, the Center for Cognitive Neuroscience, the Department of Economics, and the School of Medicine, also at Duke. I believe, Dan, also you founded the Center for Advanced Hindsight, and you're the author of 2 books, right? 2 New York bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers, and that's the Predictable Irrationality and the Upside of Irrationality.
That's right.
Excellent. So we wanted to just really appreciate you coming on with us today and talking to us about it, about your topics there, and joining us for the podcast today. But I wanted to just start off with maybe a little bit about yourself, if you can just tell us a little bit about what is behavioral economics.
So standard economics is a discipline that assumes something about human behavior. Mostly they assume that people are perfectly rational, which means that we could compute everything, we can examine all the options, we have no computational limitations, and then we kind of make the right calculations about what's the right and wrong thing to do. And based on those assumptions, standard economics then produces recommendations of how we should create markets and how we should create healthcare programs and how to do all kinds of things. Behavioral economics, in contrast, doesn't start with any assumptions. It says, let us actually look and see how people behave. And based on how people behave, let's make these recommendations. And what happens is that when we examine whether people behave rationally or not, we often find that people don't behave rationally. And because of that, we come up with very different conclusions about how we should, for example, create stock markets or what kind of healthcare program we should create, and so on. So the difference basically starts with the assumptions, and then it goes all the way to the predictions and the recommendations.
Okay, that's interesting. I never heard really that phrase before of behavioral economics, so it's interesting to hear the definition of that. And how does that apply then to your study of the use of, or the lack of, let's say, maybe self-control in people?
Yeah, so self-control is probably the best example of the difference between the two. In standard economics, people always do what's right for them, by definition, right? If you always do the rational thing, you always do what's right for you. So you can ask people, why are people obese? And in standard economics, the question is not why people are obese, because people are obese because they're making the right decisions, right? Clearly, by definition, I'm making the right decision. And maybe people are obese because they enjoy food more than they enjoy living. For example, that could be a conclusion. Or that donuts and hamburgers are more fun than diabetes is negative. Behavioral economics, we say, no, that's not necessarily the case. People might still really want to be healthy, but because health is long-term in the future, this state of health can be vastly devalued. People can underestimate it and focus on the immediate term. So it's not that that's what people prefer to do by considering everything. It's what they do because we have a hard time looking at the long term. And actually, if you think about it, this issue about focusing on the long term, it's one of the basic human challenges. Think to yourself, how many days of the year do you eat more than you hoped you would?
Oh, 365? No, I don't know.
How many days of the year do you exercise less than you hope you would?
Yeah, that's probably similar answers.
How many days of the year do you spend more than you think you should? I mean, these examples go on and on and on, and it turns out that every time that our long-term interest clashes with our short-term interest, there's a good chance that the short-term interest will win in the short term. So here's kind of a standard example. Imagine I gave you a choice, and I say, what would you rather have? half a box of chocolate now or a full box of chocolate in a week? Half now or a full box in a week, and imagine that I passed the chocolate around so you could see it and you could smell it. It was next to you. When given this choice, most people would say, give me the half a box of chocolate now. Basically saying that it's not worthwhile for them to wait another week for another half a box of chocolate. But if I push the choice to the future and I said, what would you rather have? A half a box of chocolate in a year or a full box of chocolate in a year and a week? Now realize that this is basically the same decision. I'm asking you whether you're willing to wait another week for another half a box of chocolate. But when you ask this question about the future, everybody says that they will wait. Why? Because in the future we are wonderful people. We will exercise, we will diet, we will not text and drive, we will do all these wonderful things in the future.
Yeah.
Of course, we never get to live in that future, right? We always live in the present, and in the present we often succumb to temptation. And this is basically the issue of self-control or lack of self-control, is that when things tempt us in the short term, they overwhelm us and get us to behave very badly. Now, think about the other side of it. If you think that people have perfect ability to control themselves, then you would not create any mechanisms for them to help them with self-control. But if you think that people have a problem, all of a sudden you can say, how do we create mechanisms that help people do better? So let me ask you, imagine that you wanted to restrict your food intake. What kind of things could help you do that? What kind of interventions in your environment could help you reduce the amount that you consume?
Surgery?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking more of that's probably one that many people go to, but maybe limiting the amount of food available.
Okay, so again, think about this, right? Both of them are saying surgery basically means I'm going to decrease my ability to eat. If you had perfect self-control, you wouldn't need to do that, but because you have a limited self-control, you could say, let me make my intestine shorter so I feel fuller faster and I can't eat as much as I'm tempted. Or if you say less food available, again, you're saying if I see the food and it's next to me, I'm going to be very tempted, so let me just not get it next to me. Maybe what I should do is I could order food online from the supermarket and not go into the supermarket and not see all these tempting things that are trying to get me to eat. And there's many examples to think about how we do this. How do we understand people have self-control problem and how we help them? And let me describe to you one of my own personal experiences with self-control. So I was in hospital for a very long time. I was badly burned, and one of the things I got in hospital was a liver disease. Lots of people get lots of illnesses in hospitals. I was unlucky to get a bad blood transfusion and got a liver disease. And for a long time, they didn't know what it was. They knew it was some type of hepatitis, but they didn't know what it was. And it kept on kind of wreaking havoc on my recovery. And about 8 years after I was originally injured, I was already out of the hospital. I was studying at the university. I had another flare-up, and I checked myself into hospital, and they told me that I had hepatitis C, which the virus was just recently isolated. And they told me that the FDA was testing a new medication to try and fight hepatitis C, which was called interferon. And interferon was originally invented for hairy cell leukemia, and it's a very unpleasant medication. And they asked me if I want to go on this medication. And I said, what happened if I don't? And they described to me what it feels like to die from liver cirrhosis. And I said, okay, I'll join this protocol.
Yeah.
And they gave me this injection that I had to take 3 times a week for a year and a half. And each one of those injections caused me to be sick for about 16 hours. Vomiting, headache, shaking, stuff like that. And not as bad as dying from liver cirrhosis, but certain and now. Now imagine what would you do if you had these injections, right? In principle, if you took them regularly, you might not get liver cirrhosis 30 years from now, but certainly you'll be really miserable for the next 16 hours. And this is the trade-off we've been talking about, exercising, overeating, so on, when the short-term overwhelms the long-term. Anyway, I took the medications, and a year and a half later, they told me that A, I beat the hepatitis C. Second, that the treatment was approved by the FDA. And the third thing they told me was that I was the only patient in the protocol that ever took the medication on time. And the question is, why was I able to do that? Do I have no self-control problem? Can I look better into the future? Do I care more about my liver? And the answer is neither of those. But what I did was I invented a little trick for myself. And my trick is that I love movies. If I had time, I would watch lots and lots and lots of movies. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would first thing go to the video store. I would rent a few videos I really wanted to watch. I would carry them in my backpack the whole day, anticipating watching them. And then in the evening, I would get home, I would pop the video in, I would inject myself, and I would press play. I did not wait for the side effects to settle in. I would connect the injection with something good. And that basically caused me to basically able to sustain this regime. Now, if you think about what I did, it's actually quite strange. Because the reality is that livers are really, really important. Side effects are even less important. And the movies are even less important. So how could the movies motivate me? Well, it's not that I started caring more about my liver. I substituted the liver with movies. I behaved in a good way to taking the medication on time for something else, but for something immediate. And we call this reward substitution. And the idea is that we are not designed to necessarily care about things that happen in the long term, but if instead we can re-engineer our environment, we might be able to behave in the short term because of other reasons as if we care about our livers or if we care about something in the long term. So let's think about this in another domain. Think about what do you think is the biggest problem that we are facing in terms of not thinking about the long term?
The biggest problem for not thinking about the long term, probably, I don't know, the short term side effects?
Gratification.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about problem in the world. What is the biggest problem in the world that is caused by not thinking long term?
Oh, I don't know. Probably like global warming, something to that effect.
You can think about global warming, long-term savings, all of those things. Let's take global warming as an example. If you wanted to create a problem that people would not care about, you would probably create global warming, right? It's the poster child for human apathy.
That's probably true.
Yeah,
As sad as it is, that's true.
Yeah, think about all the things that cause human apathy. Something that happens long-term in the future to other people first. We don't see it progressing. We don't see anybody suffering. Anything we can do is a drop in the bucket. All of those factors cause separately human apathy, and they all come together in global warming.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can ask yourself whether you can get people, you can hope that people would wake up one morning and feel energized about global warming and they will do something about it. And from my perspective, the odds are very, very low. Maybe we can get a few people here and there, but the mass market, the idea that people would wake up and really care about it, it's very, very hard to imagine. So what can you do in terms of reward substitution? Can you find other things that would get people to behave as if they care about global warming? Right? So we can think about lots of solutions. Why don't you think about it? What else could you do? How can you get people to care about something else and behave as if they care about global warming?
Gas prices.
Yeah, so you can tax people or you increase prices. What else?
Recycling.
So you could recycling. I mean, why would you get people to recycle, right? You could get people to be proud about it or to be concerned about it or to feel that they're doing something good for themselves. I think another kind of good example is the Toyota Prius. And my personal observation is that people who drive Toyota Priuses usually smile more than other people. And
Interesting
I think
observation.
Are you driving one?
No.
No, but it is interesting. Why? Why do they smile more?
I think they're doing it for a good reason because they look at themselves and they say to themselves, look at me, I'm driving a Toyota Prius. I'm a wonderful human being. And not only that, but other people who are driving around me can recognize what a wonderful human being I am. Now, I'm not saying that people who are driving Toyota Priuses are not wonderful human beings, but I think that the fact that the car looks so different from other cars pushes them and helps them a little bit more. And you can ask yourself whether the same people who drive Toyota Priuses would also, for example, insulate their attic or change the thermostat in the summer and in the winter in their homes. Those things would be very good for the environment, but they would not have the same public display of your ego, identity, and pride. So the people who are driving Toyota Prius, of course, are doing it because they're concerned about the environment, but there's something else there that is helping them to actually take an action on this. And I think if we thought about it, we could try to take other aspects of our lives, like how much insulation you have in your attic and what temperature you have, and connect them, for example, to your Facebook status. And the moment we do that, all of a sudden we get reward substitution. We get people to care about their ego and how people think about them, and through that behaving much nicer.
Yeah, this is interesting because I want to maybe flip this a little and ask your opinion on this, because our goals and our purpose, especially with this podcast, we're all in different businesses, but the same industry, which is security. We help people secure their companies, their networks, their computers, things like that.
Wait, what?
And one of the things that we use to do that is we educate people on some of the malicious avenues that people will take to manipulate them or influence them to do something. So knowing, let's say that, like what you've been saying for the time now, that most people lack self-control and they would rather go with immediate gratification over some extra benefit for waiting. Is that used commonly, do you think? Is that used by marketing and other avenues to manipulate people into taking actions that are not good for them?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, think about something as simple as Facebook. What features do you think become more popular in Facebook? Features that get us to do something that is good in the long term, or features that get us to go there 15 times a day on an average day, right? It's all about the short term. Or think about what foods become more popular, the foods that get us to eat better for the long term, or the food that get us to do something in the short term. Think about something like credit cards. Lots of things around us are designed to get our gratification in the short term at the expense of long term. And I think that's kind of the barrier, right? If you're trying to sell anything that has the long-term view, it's incredibly hard. Now, the one kind of interesting thing, there's something I describe in detail called the identifiable victim effect. And the idea of the identifiable victim effect is that we care more about single examples of tragedies than we care about statistical examples of tragedy. So, for example, do you remember baby Jessica who fell to the well?
Yeah, I do remember that story.
Yep.
Turns out that she got more CNN coverage than Rwanda and Darfur put together. Right? How could that be, that a single case of one cute little girl who fell to a well is so much more interesting and enticing and capturing than tragedy that happened to whole nations? But the fact is, this is the case. From a psychological perspective, when we see somebody suffering, we care much more about it. This is the only thing that Mother Teresa and Joseph Stalin agreed on. Joseph Stalin said, 1 death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths are a statistic. And Mother Teresa said, if I look at the masses, I will never act. If I look at the one, I will. And both of them are reflecting this idea that when we see a single example of tragedy, we care a lot about it, and we can actually act on it. When we look at statistical problems, we actually go the other way around. So when you are selling insurance against devastating things, one of the questions is, how are you describing it? And if you're describing it in a statistical term, and you say, 70,000 people in the US get this every day, and here is what they think, and here's how much they lose, and here's how big the problem is, it sounds an appealing way to describe something, because you describe the complexity and the size and the tragedy. At the same time, you're not evoking people's emotion. And on the other hand, if you describe one case and you say, here is Joe, and Joe did not capture, he did not secure his information, he didn't do it, he got his identity theft, look what happened to Joe, how much do you want to be in his shoes? In some sense, you're not giving people all the information. You're not describing how big the problem is. But by giving one vivid piece of information, you're actually making it much more important, central, and increasing the likelihood that people would actually act.
That's truly amazing to me. I think if I had thought about it, I would have really thought to see that in action. That is definitely the truth, but never really gave it much thought that is the way people think.
Correct.
Yeah. And if you think about it, this is something that a lot of charities are really understanding quite well, right? So it turns out that if you take people and you say, here is a problem of hunger in Africa, how much money do you give to that? People give like $1.25. If you take a little girl and you call her Rukia and you show her picture and you say, how much money would you give to Rukia? People give twice as much. But the sad thing is what happens when you give both pieces of information. Imagine I describe to you little Rukia who's hungry and so on, and I describe to you the size of the problem, how many people in Malawi and Zimbabwe and so on are going hungry. What do you think? Will combining both pieces of information be as effective as the little girl, or will it be as ineffective as a statistical problem?
I'd say
Probably.
Yeah.
I would say I would go to the statistical side, that people would choose to distance themselves.
That's exactly what happens, right? So ironically, you take the emotional individual information and then you add to it more information to describe how big the problem is, that this description of how big the problem is actually mutes the emotion. It mutes the affect. It gets, as you said, it gets people to be more distant, to care less, and then they give much less money. I'll give you one more example for this. So imagine that you're going for your favorite job interview. This is a job that you've been dreaming on since you were 6. And you have new socks and shoes and underwear and a new suit, and you just got the haircut and you're really looking forward to it. And you have 15 minutes to get there. And as you walk by this canal, you hear a baby crying, and you look over the rail and you see that this baby is about to drown. And you have no time. If you jump in, you will save the baby, but you'll lose your suit and the job interview. And if you'll keep on walking, you will get to you have to choose one or the other. Now, very few people, I think, under those situations will say to themselves, let me go for my job interview and I'll make a vow to donate 10% of my income to kids who are starving, and that would be much more helpful than saving this one kid, because I could save many more kids. No, in fact, it would be the rational thought, right? That's what Mr. Spock would do. But the fact is, we can't think this way. You see one case of tragedy, of human suffering, and you're willing to sacrifice an awful lot for it, not thinking about the true amount of risk and the true amount of contribution.
But then on the same case, what you're saying is now we see that maybe even worse atrocities, worse human suffering in another part of the world, but we're not willing to jump in the water, so to say, and get our suit wet.
That's right. So you're willing to lose your dream job and $1,000 on your suit, but you're not willing at the same degree to give $10 to save some kids from getting malaria, or giving $1,000 to save 100 kids from getting malaria. Right. So there's something about what gets us to act is not necessarily proportional to the amount of risk. Actually, jokingly, I tell my students that if they want a good business, it's to sell insurance against nuclear attacks, because it's something people are overly afraid of.
I would buy it, by the way. I'm just letting you know.
People would likely to buy it, and of course, if it happens, you don't need really to pay that much.
That's also.
But you know what? Or another example. I'm Israeli, and I go to Israel once a year, and people always ask me if I'm not afraid of terrorism. And the truth is, terrorism is a very small risk compared to the drivers. The drivers everywhere, right? But our perception of risk are not proportional to what is actually dangerous. They're proportional of what is frightening us, what grabs our attention. And terrorist acts are incredibly frightening because they're malicious, they're intended, you have no part in it, right? You're just a bystander. So all of those things basically inflate the fear and therefore also influencing incorrectly our perception of the risk.
Yeah, that's so knowing. I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this because this is kind of. I'm trying to think of an example maybe too. We're talking about, especially now the title to your book becomes more obvious to me. The predictable irrationality. So being able to predict that people just aren't going to, that scenario you gave me was very fitting. I thought I was able to picture that clearly and see that I would probably make and have made the same choices in the past. You see the things on the news, all these horrendous things going all over the earth, and you flip the channel, you go on with your life. It doesn't really affect you. But you're right. You see that one case, local person or someone, their house is ruined, you see the tears crying down their face, their child died, whatever, and you feel this massive emotional connection to them, even though you might not know the person directly.
That's right.
The fact that that's so predictable, then it seems to me that this is something that people would use to maliciously manipulate others.
Both maliciously and good. So, my first book was called Predictably Irrational, and the second one is called The Upside of Irrationality. And you can think about both of those concepts here. One is that our irrational behavior is often predictable. We'll care more about single identifiable victims than big tragedies. The other thing, which is the upside of irrationality, the advantages, is that we are capable of caring, right? The truth is people do give money to charity, even to things that are outside of their country and people they will never meet again. People are more generous than economic theory will have you predict. But I will tell you one last thing, which I think is interesting, particularly for kind of insurance type of product, which is the idea of regret. Regret is a very interesting emotion. It's about not where we are, but how easy it is for us to imagine that we would have been somewhere else. So, for example, when would you be more upset? If you missed your flight by 2 minutes or by 2 hours?
That's true, 2 minutes.
Now, why is it? You're stuck in O'Hare for the same amount of time. Why are you so much more upset if it's 2 minutes?
Because it was within my grasp. I could have been there if I just was a little bit faster.
That's right. So it's about your ability to imagine that things could have been better. It's not about where you are. It's about your ability to imagine things could have been better. So the idea of regret and our desire to eliminate potential regret actually drives lots of our behavior. So, for example, imagine you go to buy a new television, and as you get out, the salesperson said, look, you have this option to buy the extended warranty on this thing, and you can only do it now. If you'll not do it now, you can never do it later. He said, and how would you feel if a year and a half from now the television broke and you refused this warranty extension?
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, I will feel like an idiot.
Uh-huh.
Right? And because of that, I am going to try to protect myself against feeling like an idiot, so I'll buy this insurance.
Yes.
Paying lots of money for that privilege, by the way, but trying to protect this feeling of possible regret in the future.
I agree.
Actually, I do have to run, sadly.
Okay. Well, I guess we will save our questions maybe for another podcast because you have a lot of very interesting
pleasure.
topics.
Fabulous conversation.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
Always happy to chat. Sorry I had to rush this time.
No, really, my fault technically. So we appreciate that. If people want to know more about you, what's the best way for them to find you on the web?
So I have a website, just my name, Dan Ariely, DANARIELY.com. And I have all kinds of information and videos and description. And even some tests.
I saw your TED speech, which was really the first thing that kind of attracted us to even reaching out to you. That was really a phenomenal speech. So,
thank you.
I'm not sure if that's on your site or just on YouTube where I found it, but they can find that. And
it's also on my site. I have a few of those.
Excellent. So, Dan, thanks so much for your time today. Really look forward to having you back. We will definitely be contacting you for more time in the future so we can continue discussing this.
With pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye. Are we all still here?
Yeah,
No.
what a fascinating Israeli.
Dude, that
was
sucked
awesome.
that we had to go so fast. That was a phenomenal guest. We really have to get him back on to have a longer discussion.
Absolutely.
It was a shame that we only had half an hour or so with him today, but probably one of the most fascinating guys we've had on the podcast to date, in my opinion.
Yep.
Absolutely. His perspective on how things, look in the future versus now is right on.
Yeah, I had like 1,000 more questions I could have asked him. I mean, this whole topic of self-control to me, and that when he brought up regret, this is wow. I mean, you could probably write volumes on what's in just a few minutes of time that we spoke with him. Really amazing. I just was thinking, we always try to like twist this or spin it. I shouldn't say twist, spin it into how this can apply to social engineering. And just as he was talking, I guess the first thing that popped in my head is the fact that it's so predictable that people are going to be irrational, that people will take the short-term gig over the long-term benefits. I wonder how we can use that as a social engineer inside of an audit or a gig. What do you guys think?
I think that the natural thing to do in a situation like this is to make create a certain situation where, of course, a short-term benefit might seem much larger than it is, and at the same time making the long-term damage smaller than it is. And maybe when you do that, you'll position your target to be a bit more susceptible to whatever it is that you're trying to do. So we just need to work within those parameters and start thinking about what type of situation can both seem more beneficial for the short term and less harmful for the long term.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about his illustration, which I don't know how we would apply this, and this is what we should discuss, because like the chocolate, right? So you gave me a choice to choose a half a box now or a full box in 1 week. And most people, I could even see myself, sure, I'll take the half a box now. It smells good, looks good, I want it now. But now if you tell me I have to wait a year for a half a box, a year and a week doesn't seem like a long time to wait for a full box, so I'll just say, give me the year and a week. Because it seems so far in the future, it's not going to matter to me for that extra week since it's 52 weeks already. You can't really. I guess I'm just trying to quickly think if there's a way to kind of put that into social engineering terms.
I think it would need a bit more time and thought, but what if you try to take that example verbatim and you'd come into a situation where the person in front of you understands that they need to do something, but they don't know if they want to do it. But on the other hand, they think they need to do it in the long time from now, so it's less urgent and less stressing on them.
Right, so by giving them the choice, they make the choice maybe even subconsciously, hey, this isn't that bad because it doesn't seem so bad in the future.
Correct, and then once they've made that choice, you can say, all right, so now it needs to be now, and try to bring that decision back into the present, for example. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that definitely requires some good outline, some thought, but that does sound rational.
Which is exactly what we're talking about. Things are not being.
Yes. Yeah, but in a sense, I don't want to take everything that he said and twist it into the negative, but to analyze that and see how this is used.
The interesting thing when you talk to him and when you asked him exactly that question, how could this be used negatively? What was fascinating for me is that he doesn't. It's not in his interest to see whether it's being used negatively or positively. He just states how it is.
Yes.
And whether you use it for, you know what I mean. I like that kind of approach.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I'm like sitting there listening to what he's saying about, like that example at the end with the little girl or the toddler or whatever in the water. That to me was profoundly intelligent way of putting that, because I don't know about you guys, but I could see myself in that same scenario. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or where you're heading, what's important. If you saw one individual child in trouble, you probably would give up whatever you're doing to help. But
now, at the same time with that one, I don't think that, I guess to be really manipulative, the idea of you're not going to miss out on the interview or lose your suit or anything because you jump in, you save the little girl, then you show up for the interview, and they ask you why you look so horrible. Well, I just saved a little girl, and so now you're guaranteed the job. So you saved the girl's life as well as got the job.
Right, so that could be a whole tactic, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that though that wouldn't go through. I mean, let's say most rational people wouldn't go through their head when they saw the girl drowning. They wouldn't say, "I'm going to jump in, so that way when I head to this interview, they automatically give me the job because I'm a hero."
I don't know.
I mean, you might think that way, Jim, but I'm not sure if most people would.
I'm going to give him the job because he's a hero.
You see?
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking, though, that whole discussion on regret, that's definitely something that applies to our industry, social engineering, what we're talking about here. That, the use of regret, empathy, sadness, all that. I mean, think about if we twist that whole example. Now it's not the little girl, because the whole point of that story was the difference in one individual person suffering as opposed to mass suffering. It's harder for people to make a rational decision when it's an individual one person suffering. Well, what if it wasn't the child that needed the saving, but it was you? You're the social engineer. Now you present a problem to whoever you're targeting, and they have the power to save you out of a terrible circumstance, whatever that is. You're the IT guy sent to fix the computers, and you only have 15 minutes for your next job. You got to get in and do it quick. I know that's a terrible example, but
it was really bad. It was actually a really bad one, but let's keep going.
It wasn't really bad.
It was pretty bad. Jim, do you concur?
Yeah, it was bad. I think a better example would be like the U.S. is getting hit by all these tornadoes, and there's these individuals that are going out to these locations and saying, "Hey, look, if you want us to repair your domicile, then you got to pay us up front. And if you don't pay us up front, look around you. There's devastation everywhere. If you don't pay us now, you're not going to have anyone around to fix your stuff." And think of how horrible you'll feel when everyone else has their houses fixed and you're dead.
I want to confirm that you just said domicile, by the way.
I did say domicile.
Yeah, but you were going good, Jim. But that to me is more like blackmail and not influence. I mean, that's more like blackmail.
Perhaps something like this. If you bring an example of a situation which you need to rectify, I have to have those keys to the office because everyone on the bus is sweating and it's hot, as opposed to bringing over sweaty old Claudia and saying, "Look how sweaty Claudia is."
I'm not sure if I'm following you much.
That was awesome.
Look how sweaty Claudia is.
Cool. You know what I love about that much though is you made my horrible one look a little bit better.
Yeah, dude. Well, no. Actually, yours is still really bad. Mine's is fun.
Listen, mine's not bad. Let me defend why mine's not bad. I had a scenario in my head that I didn't fully expound. If you're doing an SE gig, you call in, you find out that whatever CSO Dave, you're on vacation, you're in Disney for a week, and I want to target your company. I can pop in and say, "Hey, Dave shot me an email saying he's on vacation, and I work for your IT support company, third party, right? Let's assume you have one. I found that out also, and he sent me an email saying he's on vacation. He's down south in Florida, and you got some problems with the server. I need to check it out. So I'll just be 15. I just build some credibility.
That was a pretty bad example of social engineering, though.
How was that a bad example of social engineering?
I don't know. I just wanted to say it was bad.
Yeah, I knew you did, because it's good.
I mean, it wasn't that good.
Well, okay, maybe it's not earth-shattering, groundbreaking, but I mean.
Well, I wouldn't go earth-shattering or groundbreaking. Or I would say listen, I'll give you a very fair share. I would say it was very first grade-ish. It was good.
Oh, you are ridiculous. You're just now trying to get me,
good.
And I'm not going to let you get me.
What are you talking about?
I'm not going to let you get me. I know it was good.
Jim?
What?
Wow, we both said
What?
Jim at the same time. That was epic. That was
Jim.
actually good. Jim, come on.
Yeah, it didn't work for me.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't, because it's too easy to pick up the phone and make that verification. You got to throw something else in there too.
Bro, you're
Okay.
off your game today, all right? You are off your
No,
game.
listen, I'm sure you have to throw something else in, but we're having like a spur of the moment conversation. I'm throwing these things out of the top of my head. I mean, of course this would be a lot more well planned out. Hey, it's better than sweaty old Claudia. Come on.
I mean, Mutz was funny, though.
I wasn't
That
trying to be
sucks.
funny.
I know, but it's like a difference between funny and just, like, awful.
Oh, you're killing me today. You're killing me.
What? I'm trying to be honest with you, Chris, okay?
Yeah,
and that's what friends do. So let's
Oh, now we're friends, huh?
So let's keep
If you
going
think
on.
about it, if you think about it, you walked into an office and you had this really big, sweaty, just a mess of a person there with you, and you just said, "Look at how sweaty they are. Give me the keys." It would probably work.
No, there had to be some pretext with it. Like, listen, I don't even know what that was about. I mean, are you the AC repairman?
So
It doesn't matter.
it's just getting worse. It's just getting worse.
Yeah, it's
Let's-
getting
let's-
worse.
Let's just here. I'll break the ice here. One thing that he did say was that kind of resonated home with me. It was just really applicable to what we do as penetration testing and security. Is he said a lot about risk. He's like, if you go to Israel, the first question I get asked is, "Are you scared of terrorism?" And then he said, well, you actually have a better ratio of getting hit by someone in a car than actually being a part of a subject of terrorists. And so these things that happen that resonate with humans because they're so horrible. We have a larger risk appetite for things that occur that are more damaging in nature. So for us in security, it's the same thing. I'm sure the 99.9% of the people that when Sony got breached, or not Sony, but RSA got breached through spear phishing, I guarantee you every single security professional and every single Fortune 1000 company got asked, what are we doing to protect against spear phishing? So it's kind of interesting to see his thoughts on large events that cause and occur things in different stages that
He's talking out of his ass.
No. Actually, I liked the beginning until the end when he lost it. Then
I was
got really.
good at the beginning. I'll admit the end
you
was
got
a
really
rough.
bad, but I was thinking I was going to cut you off, but you were doing so well until the end that it was just really you bomb. I mean, you made my one look great.
No.
No, you
talking
really,
out of his
that
ass.
sucked.
If you check out the book, The Science of Fear, they have a really good breakdown along those same lines, though, about how everybody's scared of all the pedophiles that are online. And they do a breakdown about how many people are online, what the rate and number of pedophiles actually are, what the odds of you running into a pedophile, how much time online a pedophile would have to spend in order to increase those odds. And it really just comes down to it's a very irrational fear. But who wants to say that, well, we shouldn't protect ourselves against pedophiles?
Okay, so then that comes into the question. Then is it really
Chris
risk?
doesn't need.
No, is
Chris
it
doesn't
real-
need. Chris doesn't need to protect himself against pedophiles. He's a big dude.
Hang on. Is it risk or is it perceived risk? See, that was my question when Dave started his little spiel before he wrecked his whole life.
It's definitely perceived risk.
Because like
It's our perception
your
of risk.
example, which I thought was good, Dave, about the RSA. Okay, so RSA gets slammed, and now every big company sits back and says, "What are we doing about phishing attacks?" It's perceived risk, right? At that point, or is it real risk? Because at that point, it probably could be even real risk, but they're perceiving it because one of their companies in the same sector, same size, all got hacked, right?
Agreed.
So then, what's more damaging? Do you think the perceived risk or the actual risk?
I would say it's the perceived risk. I mean, if you think about it, well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, that's kind of an interesting debate because if you look at the actual risk, I mean, what happens if it does occur?
Right.
What
but
are the actual damages? Yeah, but what if? Now, but the perceived risk, companies are going to go buy a bunch of products, training, a bunch of expenses to actually incur that cost to protect against it, where they might have never been a target. So, it kind of goes into twofold on that question. I would say that the perceived risk, if you actually understand the true risk, the perceived risk is more damaging if you don't fully understand.
Okay, so that's the key, and I think that's where we kind of fall into maybe where social engineering could be used in this aspect is because if you present a believable enough perceived risk, then the effect on the person could be quite greater than an actual real risk at that point, from what you're saying.
That's right.
Yeah. So how do we use that? That's a good topic. We should talk about that. How do you use that in social engineering? And you have to come up with some perceived risk. Now, I mean, back to my lame example. I'll call it lame. Let's just use it because we could talk about it easily. Unless you want to come up with a better one. I don't like gyms because to me that was too.
Well, but I mean, I think it's applicable not only to social engineering, but almost every aspect in a business. I mean, most companies, when they're doing specifically talking about security, they try to secure their organization off of what they perceive as their risk or the most riskiest to the business when they might not fully understand that, right? And so, the perceived risk is that they're going to be breached by, intellectual property theft or through SQL injection or through different methods, whereas their actual risk might be an insider threat. So it's kind of interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I guess back to the point, it has to be believable because if, let's say you don't use SQL at all,
right, then
presenting a risk, quote unquote, of a SQL injection is unbelievable because we don't even use it, so who cares? Right.
Well, and that's where I get into, and this is going to tick off a lot of people, I think, just by this pure statement alone.
That's where
I think, well, yeah, you always are.
Yeah.
But that's where I think risk management within most companies is a facade. It's what somebody perceives as the largest risk to the organization, whereas it might not be actual. So, an auditor comes in, he may understand a fraction of what the overall company does as far as the actual business goes. So, what does the company do to actually generate revenue and make profit? And he makes this formula, this equation of what he perceives as risk, whereas he doesn't understand his adversaries. He doesn't understand the company's adversaries. He doesn't understand the true nature of the business and how they generate revenue or critical systems of those. And he's not going to know when a Chinese hacker is going to decide to break into an infrastructure via, a zero-day exploit, or maybe it be, through social engineering or through different areas. But in his avenue of what he's experienced, his perceived risk is going to be a lot larger to certain things that he's done and experienced versus what's actualized to the company.
And then to me, that's where like a real maybe black box pen test is beneficial because you're going to uncover the potential risks, the vulnerabilities, and the way that an attacker could get in before they actually do it.
I think pen testing in general, if it's done right, can actualize risk because it can show if it's done properly, actual simulated attacks that would be risky scenarios for the organization. So in a lot of cases, I think you can actually you can actualize risk during a penetration test if it's done right and the actual organization that's assessing it understands what the company does in order to generate revenue and blah blah blah, right?
Yeah, and I'm with you. Interesting topic on that. A little off the topic of what Dan was mentioning, but it's still interesting in the whole.
Well, it just related to me when he said that. The perceived risk of things when he goes to Israel and those different areas, because it's the same thing that we battle with on an everyday basis in security.
Yeah, I remember actually talking to Maddie about that same exact thing, like saying you should come to Israel and visit. And heck, man, I'm thinking I'm like the biggest target on earth. I'm not going to Israel. I'll probably get blown up. And then Maddie sends me this news report, online about Israel, and it's like there's never been a plane bombing or an attempted plane bombing in Israel. So it's like, holy mackerel, really? Are you serious? I mean, here I thought that this place was going to be
war zone type.
More war zone, more dangerous. And we've had more troubles in our airports here in the States than they've had in Israel. So that was all perceived until I was corrected and saw that it was.
Look at it in social engineering, Chris. When everybody here, we started the whole social engineer movement thing. I mean, we saw it as a risk because we knew that this was going to be kind of the next and latest thing. However, the perception of that didn't actually start to occur until actual companies started to become breached and actualized within the mainstream media.
That's actually a really good one, Dave. I really agree with that because DEF
you're actually agreeing with me, by the way?
I'm agreeing with you because that is an actual real good example of that. I mean, DEF CON proved it, and then in the last 6-7 months, it's been how many breaches? You can just continually count them, and all of them have some aspect of SE involving. Whether it's small, it's some kind of phishing attack, or chatting or getting passwords changed, whatever. It's some form of SE is involved in all of these breaches.
That's right.
And we're not talking mom and pop shop down the street here. We're talking massive RSA, Epsilon, Sony. These big, huge companies that are suffering under all of this. And now it's becoming, wow, hey guys, I just got an email today from a big company that was tasked to produce security awareness. So they had nothing under social engineering. It was like one slide. Social engineering is bad. So they started doing research on the web and hit our site and wanted to use some of our information from our site from it. But I guarantee that this was part of what you're saying here. All these attacks occurred, and now these companies are tasked to reduce this risk.
Well, the other aspect of it that you have to take into consideration too, and why actual user education is the key to solve that, is if you think about like the whole aspect of risk compensation and how people have a certain degree of risk that they're willing to take on, and if you enforce controls on them that they don't necessarily have a part of picking, and you enforce these controls on them, then they're going to change their behavior in such a way where they're made safer in one way, but then they're going to change their behavior and become less safe in another way until they hit that equilibrium point where this is where they are safe. For instance, someone is mandatory has to run antivirus. Well, now that they're running antivirus, they feel a lot safer about downloading unknown executables off the internet and running them on their system, where if they didn't have antivirus, they would never take that step. So if you
but again, that's perceived risk, isn't it, Jim? I mean,
well, it's perceived risk, but it's also that whole level of risk compensation that okay, now that you've enforced these controls on, or look at brakes. Now that my brakes work good, I can drive faster. Has your risk really gone down now that you've increased these? You've made your brakes work better? Or
I would argue that maybe it has. I would argue in that case that the risk has gone down, because if let's say I drive 70 everywhere, I'm at less risk of death by not being able to stop if my brakes work good than if my brakes don't work.
But you also might increase your risk of actually having a collision with something darting out in the street, because you don't see that coming around the blind corner or whatever.
I see, because now I'm driving faster because I feel more secure, you're saying?
Right. The brakes are a performance tool, not necessarily a safety tool. And so what winds up happening with user education is you have to change what people's what their risk tolerance is, what their actual risk acceptance is, where that level is. And by doing the actual user education rather than relying upon technical tools to enforce these, a technical tool being dropped on somebody, their level of risk acceptance is never changed. But if you actually do education and you inform them as to why they don't want to engage in this type of behavior and the sort of consequences that can come out of engaging in that sort of behavior, then that's going to change their risk tolerance level to a degree that ideally would make them safer.
Yeah, well, I can't argue that, but that's, of course, the sales pitch for good security awareness training.
Right.
So I can't argue that statement there. I guess.
Well, it's also it's harder to do because so many companies what they want to do when they have a problem, going back to what Dave's statement was, when they have a problem, it's easy to buy a tool, implement it, and check the box and say the job is done.
Well, how many calls did you guys get for DLP solutions as soon as WikiLeaks hit? Or
it's been nonstop. It's
nonstop, and it's just amazing the feedback you get. When mainstream things happen, and the risk may be relatively low.
But it's, again, yeah, I agree. But then we're back to now all of a sudden, because it's on people's minds, that's what they're thinking about.
But to bring it back to something that our guest was saying as far as the personification of this, I think that the personification of a problem matters immensely as far as actually making people care about it. Because if we use the stats of over the last X number of years, X number of companies have been breached with X number of records that have come out, that stat means much less than actually saying, hey, look at this. Sony has had 9 breaches directly in the last year, what, 3 months, 4
Yeah,
months, whatever.
not even.
Right.
Yeah, they've had 9 breaches. So far, they're estimating that so far they've lost $170 million because of these security breaches. That number's bound to rise. That matters a lot more, and companies can see themselves a lot more in using Sony as an example rather than saying 30 companies have had issues.
Yeah, I agree.
Isn't it what a penetration test is designed to do too? I mean, isn't that what penetration tests are leveraged for? I mean, it's kind of the scare tactic or fear mongering, really, of what a simulated breach can actually do or occur to at least get a bit more backing within the company to get funding for, right?
Yeah, the problem is in our
I think
group,
it depends on how the pen test is done.
But you can also say that, yeah, exactly right. But what you can do is you can actualize that risk during a penetration test. So during a penetration test, you can go from a perceived risk to this is what we're actually able to do, and we're actually able to actualize. Great. Cut that out.
no, I'm leaving it in.
But I mean, you can actually represent what a actualized threat or risk would be to the company, right? And that's why I think they're so effective.
So, Dave,
Well, the problem is the majority of penetration tests don't wind up becoming real attack simulations.
Well, and I'm saying real penetration tests. Companies that are actually doing it legitimately versus the vulnerability scanning.
I have an important question.
Inventory with exploitation verification.
Right.
I got a very important question for Dave. So if I actually actualize the actual threats, can I actually fix them, actually?
Passport.
I'm just actually really asking.
Passport.
I'm just curious. Okay, I guess that's...
Is that Microsoft Passport?
Microsoft Passport.
Passport.
Very interesting in all of this, I tell you.
You'll tell us?
I'm sorry.
My voice is my passport?
My what was that, Sneakers, right?
Yeah, verify me.
Good old movie. I love that movie.
Do you love that movie?
Oh, I do.
Is it a good old movie?
It's a good old movie.
Do you love that movie?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be Robert Redford when I grew up.
You just said it's a good old movie. I love
You're
that movie.
partway there.
I'm partway there? How am I there? How am I even partway there? I'm not skinny. I'm not good looking.
You have blind friends, right?
Great, thanks. I got blind friends. Yeah, actually I do.
There you go.
Yeah.
Partway there.
Although they're not really great phone freakers.
They don't have the Braille computer.
Totally way off topic. But that was
I think it was right on topic. I think it's exactly what he was talking about.
No, I meant the Sneakers conversation. Sorry.
Oh.
But yeah, no, the conversation about pen testing and risk and all of that, right on line with what Dan. I tell you, I wish we had like a couple hours with that guy. Really interesting stuff there.
Was it really interesting stuff?
Really interesting.
Okay.
Not just interesting, but like really interesting.
Really interesting.
Hey, what's up, adjective boy? What are you picking on all my adjectives today?
No, I'm picking on you, bro.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as it's just that, that's fine.
I would say today was a pretty effective one of picking on you today. I
mean, I think the only time you actually got me was when you said my example stunk, and then you got Jim to go along with it.
Well, they did stink.
It didn't stink.
It did stink. No, Jim confirmed it stunk.
It didn't stink. I mean, maybe it was lacking some detail.
Lacking some detail. There was no detail. It was completely a hypothetical, made-up scenario that made no sense whatsoever. It was kludgy.
It was lacking some depth that would make it believable and realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you have an imagination that's better than a second
I could come up with something right now that would be better than your example.
Do it.
Okay.
Wait a second. Chris, did you say if you had imagination better than a second grader?
Yes.
Well, doesn't a second grader have a better imagination than an adult?
Not in SE experiments, no. I don't know what kind of... Well, maybe your kids. I mean, from the conversations I've had with your kids, maybe. But,
But they're not in second grade.
Well, come on, Dave. Dave,
what?
I mean, Jim just cheated and gave you like 5 extra minutes.
I wasn't even thinking about anything. So what am I doing? Creating a scenario of attacking an organization that would be effective in social engineering?
Come on, an in-person scenario. 1, 2, 3, go.
In person or logically? Around, like, calling somebody up?
No, in person.
So it has to be in person.
That was mine. Mine was in person. So you said you come up with a better one off the top of your head, and now you're delaying so much.
I would come in with a fake bottle of pee and accidentally spill it on the reception desk.
Now that is a good one.
That would work. No, I mean, from a physical security perspective, I mean, if I knew that the CSO, I'll use your example, Chris. If I knew that the CSO was going to be out, I would make fake business cards. I would actually impersonate somebody. I would do some research on it and actually walk into the building before ever talking to anybody, with already having access to this to be able to walk into the organization, do whatever I needed to.
That's basically what I said, but minus the business card. So I said
no, you did
but
not.
that's the details. That's the details.
You specifically said, I'm going to walk in, I'm like, oh, hey, I know the CSO is out for vacation, and he had me do some assessment, and that assessment
I never said assessment.
I'm doing I'm doing an audit.
He had a problem on his server.
That's right. Thank you, Jim.
A problem on the server that I need to go fix. Okay. Sir, what company are you from? What? Business card? Wait, what?
Well,
sorry, you're not on the list. Excuse me, huh?
But that's such a tiny... Of course you'd have a business card. I mean, who would go into an audit without a business card to prove your pretext?
Dude, if you're doing a pretext, I'd call ahead of time impersonating the actual CSO and calling the security desk and say that I'm having so-and-so come. He's going to be stopping by. Just let him up. And then all of a sudden, hey, as soon as I walk in, I say, hey, I'm so-and-so. Give him your business card. And you might even say something cool like, hey, I want to make sure this is the right person. Make sure you challenge him with a business card. Wow.
That's all the little details that we just didn't bring up because of the conversation. Oh, man, I tell you. All you did was take my good example and you just made it a little bit better. That's all you did.
Jim, let's roll Jim into this one, bro.
No, because Jim, for some reason today, is on your side because he's in a bad mood.
Dude, it's not enjoying my
TV got broken yesterday. I'm not happy.
Jim is in a bad mood because his TV got killed.
How does Jim being in a bad mood make it so that he's agreeing with me more? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Because generally, Jim would disagree with you just to disagree, even if I was completely wrong. He would disagree with you just because it's fun to get you going. But now Jim is like, nah, screw you, Chris is a schmuck, we hate you, and he's just being mean because he's angry at his kid for breaking his TV.
But I gotta tell you, the guest, his comment about, having this... this warranty if you don't purchase it, yada yada yada. I would have never bought that warranty.
Really?
Don't matter. I would have never bought that warranty. No.
Yeah, me neither.
See, I do it.
Yeah, they're scams.
They are scams.
I used to have to sell them back when I worked retail.
No, I don't mean for my TV. I bought a warranty for my laptop.
Yeah, you got scammed.
I bought the Mac warranty for my laptop.
Wow.
Hey, back in the day before I had Mac, I bought this big old Dell.
I'd say you got socially engineered.
I did not. Yeah. Let me tell you. Let me finish my story first.
No, you got social engineering.
I bought my warranty for my big Dell before I switched to Mac, and that saved me so much money. It's not even funny. When that thing died, they came out and fixed it for nothing.
I got to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if you know this or not, but you can kind of just walk into a Mac store and drop your laptop off, and they fix it without even questioning you on your warranty. Like, I never bought a warranty, and this thing's 2 years old. And I went in there, and I had like 3 buttons accidentally come off because I did something stupid. And I walked in there, and they just fixed it, and they gave it back to me.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what they do, bro. That's what they do.
I'm not a Mac fanboy. I just switched to Mac like a year ago.
So you got ripped.
Well, anyhow.
You got socially engineered.
It wasn't no.
So bad example on he walking in and pretending that the CSO is on vacation.
No,
and
that was a great
in addition,
example.
You got social engineered for the MacBook Pro.
Listen, that was a great example, and you even liked the example that you just expanded on it with a business card and a pre-call, which were in the plan.
It's okay. We're on the same page. It's okay.
Oh, man, I tell you.
It's okay.
I tell you,
Chris, it's okay.
Hey, Jim, next podcast, let's do it without Dave. Let's see how many listeners we lose.
No, what you do, if you really want to do that, what you do is you mute only his audio channel. So he's there. But
no one can hear him. And then every couple minutes you just unmute him for a second so people know he's still there, but...
Or you make him think that he is part of it.
Wait, I thought you were on my side today, dude. What's going on here?
We're talking in the future right now.
Yeah.
This is when you be back to normal?
This is for later on when I'm not on your side.
Oh, okay.
Jim, that was epic. We're talking in the future.
Dude, you just used the word epic. That was by the way, that was 2009. Just a heads up.
Hey, you know what?
That was a wicked old comment.
That was a wicked old comment. I mean, that's like saying whitelisting, which was like a 2009 security term that was supposed to be the savior for everything.
Listen, I whitelist epic things, okay?
Yeah, we know.
You know, I don't understand your desire to ruin my life today. Did we lose Mutz?
Nope.
Oh, wow, you've been quiet for a long time, dude.
Reading some
I think
tickets.
he just doesn't want to. What's that?
Reading some tickets.
Uh-oh.
I don't think he liked our conversation.
It was kind of.
No, it was a great conversation. I just lost you somewhere.
Would have loved to hear your take on all of that.
So it must. I mean, you were paying attention. Was Chris's example good or bad?
I think your example sucked.
Thank you, Mutz. You know, he does
Nah,
love me.
Mutz is just pulling that thing right now.
No,
to make
Mutz
it sound
loves me.
like, no,
Mutz loves me. He does. He loves me more than he loves you.
Of course.
You see?
What?
Anyhow, back to Dan. Do we have any more? Do we want to analyze some of what he said, or?
No, I think I proved him right, and that you had some horrible examples, and we're good. I mean, Jim heard, we're good.
That's great, really great. I'm glad you feel that way, Dave.
Oh yeah, no problem.
It's good that you have like a semblance of self-confidence.
Chris, you know that kind of bombed too, man.
No, I'm congratulating you. You have self-confidence. It's good.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were trying to make a joke. It's hard to tell now because I mean, it's like your jokes kind of like are going off the hook, like bad.
No.
And so that could have been that rightfully could have been a joke, but I mean.
No, I'm happy to see. Listen,
I can't tell anymore.
Sometimes it's very difficult for people who are as mentally challenged as you to have self-esteem. So I'm, congratulating you. It's nice to see that.
Just letting you know that you got no laughs again. There's.
No, I did. There's people that are listening right now that have probably crashed.
That are
their
very
car.
offended because they have retarded children, and you just said that retarded people aren't as
I
good.
didn't use the word retarded.
Yeah, you did.
I said mentally challenged.
No.
I did. It's in recording. Mentally challenged.
You can actually go back and edit whatever you want to. In those things.
You're right.
So,
and that's why this whole podcast you're talking in like Swahili.
That actually would take some skills, and I'm not too worried about you doing that. So
I actually know someone who speaks Swahili quite well.
What are you gonna have?
Take Google Translate and then play it into Google Translate and then play back from.
That's
So
awesome.
it's the computerized voice the whole time.
Yeah. Just have like Google Translate that Swahili Dave saying "I'm a twat" and then have it like play every time he speaks. Come on, that was a little funny.
Yeah,
It would sound like Stephen Hawking's speaking Swahili.
Stephen Hawking might be offended.
I don't care.
Oh, I guess we got nothing. Do we have anything else we want to talk about before we end this mess?
I mean, I think it's been a pretty good podcast. I mean, taking all jokes aside and the lack of jokes from Chris today, it's been a very, very good podcast. He brought up a lot of great points and things that I think we can think of and apply into what we do in social engineering and penetration testing as well.
I think maybe after the summer we'll try to get Dan on again when he has a little more time and have a little longer conversation about some of that stuff. He really was very. I bet if we could have had him for longer, I wanted to talk a little bit about that risk, the part that we got off on the risk. Talk a little about how he felt that affects people when they have perceived risk over actual risk. Which one affects their irrationality more so, making a
for
decision.
people that are interested in that topic, beyond his books, there's also an individual. There's the book The Science of Fear, which covers a lot of the same topics, and then there's also an individual by the name of John Adams out of the UK that deals a lot with risk compensation theory and perception of risk and that sort of thing.
You have a website for him or anything that we can put out?
Yeah, I'll find it here.
Yeah, because that'd be good. I mean, I know we got a lot of people who listen to the podcast that enjoy reading books about the stuff that we promote, so that'd be kind of cool.
The thing I like about the John Adams risk stuff is he argues against the implementation of seatbelt laws, because his argument is that laws that enforce wearing seatbelts actually make people less safe because the number of accidents go up, plus the number of deaths in individuals inside the automobile goes down, but the number of deaths from pedestrian traffic goes way up.
Really?
That's his argument.
How does he base pedestrian deaths go up because of the seatbelt law? What's his argument for that?
Much like the brake thing, that individuals
Oh, they
once
feel
they
safer?
have, they'll drive. They feel safer, so they drive more reckless than what they otherwise would, et cetera, et cetera.
Huh.
He has a few white papers, a few PDFs. It looks like he hasn't updated his blog in too long, but yeah, he has some good material.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting argument. I'm not sure if I fall for it.
Yeah, I can't say I'm a huge believer in it as well, because you can manipulate those stats to say whatever, but it's definitely something different than what everyone else does.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to just see, I guess, the research based on how people wearing a seatbelt makes more pedestrians die. So you have his website?
Yep, I sent it to the chat.
Awesome.
Yeah,
let's,
so we can put in the podcast notes.
Podcast notes, and for anyone listening, it is john-adams.co.uk. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great podcast. Mine's Chris.
Yeah, definitely. Today I was off. I mean, I was off today. I'll give you that. You know how off I am? I'm actually finding that, like, pleasing.
It's relaxing to you, huh?
Yeah, it's relaxing to me. That's how definitely off I am right now.
Wow, I mean, you hated this music before.
I know. I don't know what's going on, man. I think...
and you don't even have a broken TV.
I don't. I'm recovering from Brazil and preparing for Black Hat and DEF CON. It's just been crazy.
Meat coma.
Meat coma. Definitely. We had serious levels of meat down in Brazil. Those people know how to make meat. I tell you that much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we got nothing else to promote. I can't think of anything else we need to talk about the CTF. Are there anything else we wanted to mention, Jim?
No, we're going to be sending out that paperwork to the contestants, and everyone else can kind of sit tight until then. I guess we've had some people asking about, like,
who's breathing
lists
in
of
the mic?
Targets.
Not me.
They want, like, lists of targets, and they want what our flags are going to be and that sort of thing, and that'll all come out to be public soon enough. So.
Yeah, we're not going to release that just yet, especially the target list, not until after DEF CON.
That'd be whack job of.
Yeah. But we got, don't forget, we also have the live podcast on Sunday, which will be for anyone who wants to join in that. We'll have the whole room there doing that, I believe. We're still on with Dual Core. He'll be playing our theme song for us live at the podcast, so that'll be pretty awesome. And I guess that's
new version of Set came out.
Oh yeah, what's up with that? Anything interesting besides fixing all the billions of bugs you had in the last one?
I mean, that's a big part of it.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
why you have to go there.
No, I just was asking.
I mean, listen. We know when you write 100,000 masterful lines of code, you're bound to have 2 or 3 bugs.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Mutz doesn't have any bugs. So I don't know. Yeah, okay, I guess.
I do have to admit, Mutz's exploit, that HTTP one that he did.
You're really gonna go back? That's like 8 months old.
That was masterful.
You're gonna go back to that 8 months ago, really?
Yeah. Why not? I mean, it's not a year. I haven't hit the year rule yet.
Yeah, the year. So no, seriously though, what any new exciting features within the new version of Set?
Well, actually, the cool one is that Java actually posted an update about a month ago, so that in the publisher field, it now shows up as a big unknown versus when you used to sign it yourself, it would actually show a company name there. So I think the popularity around Set and everything is kind of skyballed them to release a patch because it was a very believable attack, and so it doesn't really hinder the Java Apple attack. I'm still finding I get about a 98 to 99% success rate with it, but with the new version, what I added was the ability for you to create your own code signing certificate. Now you have to go through and actually buy the code signing certificate, but once you do that, you can sign it, and then in the publisher field, it'll have anything that you want there. So the new version incorporates code signing and imports it into the Set applet, and it'll actually do the whole CSR for you and everything. So it'll ask you, do you want to create a request, and then you can say yes, and then it'll generate the request for you. You upload that, after you buy your code cert and prove your integrity and all that stuff, right? And then you input it back in, and then it imports that, signs the Java applet attack, and then all the Java applet attacks that you use from now on will be using the code signing certificate. So that was a nice new feature.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a neat feature. So can you make it from anyone? Can you make the cert from anywhere?
No, so for code signing certificates, it's a little bit of a tricky process. You actually have to be a legitimate company in order to sign it, right? So they do a little bit of homework on you. But how much does it cost to buy an LLC? I don't know. In Ohio, it's $50. So spend $50, make a company name that's secure Java applet, and then go get your code signing cert.
Wow. Ridiculous. Good though. Awesome. So you're gonna still keep to the policy of coming out with a new version of Set every 3 or 4 days, or you're gonna calm that down someday?
I'm not gonna calm that down ever.
No.
Even since the .4 release, I've been doing a lot of additional work. So I actually, as we're on the podcast, I rewrote a couple portions on the Set shell payload, so the interactive shell. So I uploaded those changes.
Awesome. So
you gonna do? Oh, go ahead. Never mind.
No, I was gonna say Set CTF. We talked about everything. Backtrack, offset courses. Had a great guest. I guess that kind of wraps it up for this month, huh?
What more do you want?
I don't know. I think that's about all we can possibly take. So if you like the outro music, you can check it out at dualcoremusic.com. The song is Trust Me. If you want to keep in touch with us, you can follow us on Twitter at Human Hacker or on IRC, the Freednode Network, at channel social-engineer, or of course on the web at social-engineer.org. We look forward to talking to you guys next month. See you then.
It's the SE derivative, that's me, I'm prime. The last thing I want is suspicion of a crime. My positive demeanor and my smile make it fine. With eye contact for the right amount of time. Too much and not enough doesn't seem for real. Got a nice firm handshake sealing the deal. Know a little about a lot and a lot about a little. So most conversations put me somewhere in the middle. My pop culture knowledge leaves me feeling kinda scary. It lets me chat with working class and gossip secretaries. Recon the boardroom, looking for the top thing. Loosen up execs when I ask about the golf swing. Start spewing secrets, just like a torrent. Can't really blame them, we all wanna feel important. It might seem different from what you were envisioning. The key to communicate, it's all about the listening.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you.
Offering support to employees is the best. When I'm calling random users and claiming I'm a tech, he's just here to help. So they're easily believing him. Jamming, planning, scamming, spanning every single medium. Recording while I'm spidering your phone menu system. Then mirror it and use it for my own acquisition. Get him on the line, I just do a little switching. Sending out my number in the message when I'm fishing. 6 billion people, it's really quite a market. Customers, employees, everyone's a target. Backing up my claims, using all the common slang. Lingo for the layout, drop the manager's name. Collecting all the sweet stuff like honey to a bumblebee. Like every unlisted number dialed to your company. You saw me, you probably think I'm clumsy, but I'm not. Cause I'm dropping all these USB drives around the parking lot.
Whoops.
I'm gonna use every trick in the book. I'll try my best to get you hooked. I'm gonna use every trick in the book.